you know, if I can reach people that obviously are not musicians and they're just enjoying what they hear, that was amazing.
Speak Easy Studios. Speak and be heard.
Welcome to the studio at 1201, where we are bringing you interesting conversations with entrepreneurs, creatives, leaders, and world changers to impact and inspire. Let's connect! So make sure to subscribe, rate, and review with all the stars. And most importantly, remember, you belong here. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Conversations With, and we got some fun talks that we're going to have today.
Yes,
my name is Jeanette Brown. So happy to have you, and I'm, of course, joined by my co-host, the one and only Kelly Olives. What's up, Kelly?
Hey there. Oh, it's just a great day.
It is a great day.
We live in Florida. Every day is a great day.
You know, yes, until that summer heat slaps, and it's not summer yet, and it's already slapping. But anyway,
this is true. This is true.
We have a phenomenally talented and interesting guest with us today. Going to be quite a conversation. Kelly, you want to share some fun facts?
I would love to. So today we have with us Clare Shore.
Yes.
Yes. She is a modern day composer, a singer. And most importantly, she is a dog lover.
She wanted us,
yes. She said that really should have gone first, but you know, so many of us are dog lovers.
Yeah,
but the composer singer part, that really sets her apart. We all love our dogs. Anyway, so a few really great things about Clare, as she was the second woman to earn her Doctorate of Musical Arts in composition. From Juilliard.
My goodness.
I know.
My goodness.
And we found out today it was like a long stretch between the first and the second. And so she was kind of like the first again. It's kind of how I like to say it. So,
wow.
Yeah. Her compositions have been performed at Carnegie Hall, at the Lincoln Center, and many, many different places like that. And I'm hoping we discover some more things about her with that. She is a huge promoter of modern day composers. And anyway, we're so happy to have Clare with us today.
Welcome, Clare!
Well, I'm so delighted to be here.
20 minutes later, we're just going to brag about you. We're just honored to have you here.
Yeah.
Well, I just sit here and drink my coffee.
We'll read your bio and just
goodness.
sit back and enjoy. It's like those people who go, oh, stop. Or however they do it, stop.
Come on, stop it. You're pretty. No, you're pretty. You have lived a life, Clare.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
You don't know the half of it.
I bet. I'm hoping to learn a little bit.
Did we hit some? I know there's many highlights, but are there any other highlights you could graciously share with us?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, well, we could keep going.
How about this? How did you start finding out that you really loved composition?
Great question.
Okay, well, can we just start with music, period?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
My mom was minister of music in a church in North Carolina, and she enlisted my siblings and myself to do a lot of things. And so when I was 3 years old, I was too young to be in the children's choir, she said. So during the Christmas program, I stood on the bench by my grandmother, and I sang Away in the Manger with the other kids. So she put me in the children's choir. So anyway, the rest is history, of course. I grew up doing all sorts of things musically in the church.
Wow.
And I decided to pursue music education as an undergraduate. And I went to Wake Forest University as an undergraduate.
Nice.
And got my degree, and then went to the University of Colorado. By the way, my last semester at Wake Forest, a composer came onto the faculty. I had written a couple of pieces before that, basically choral pieces, and had shown them to my theory teacher and gotten a couple of pointers. But he was a bona fide composer.
Wow.
So, I mean, I knew the moment that I started studying that this was it for me.
Wow.
And so after graduation, I applied and got accepted to the University of Colorado at Boulder to do my master's. And oh my gosh, I wrote like a fiend. And I owe so much to Charles Aiken, who was my advisor. And I wrote, in that 1 year and a half, I wrote so much music.
Oh, wow.
And I studied with him a little bit over the following summer.
Was it mostly choral at this point as well? No,
Everything. And my eyes and ears were opened to new music, Samuel Barber, etc. And so I just took it all in, soaked it in, and wrote a lot. And he taught me so much about so many different styles and things that had been. This was in the 1970s, and so there were a lot of new things being tried out also.
Yes.
So it was a fertile time.
That's neat.
And then a year or so later, I moved to the New York area, and I had applied to Yale. I thought
From
I really
North
wanted to go
Carolina
there. Well, from
to
North Carolina,
Colorado
I was born in Winston-Salem
to New York. Wow.
Colorado, and then to New York. And I applied to Yale and didn't get accepted. But I didn't know you were supposed to really actually talk to somebody there. So it's like, oh my God, I was so disappointed.
I bet.
And I ended up applying to Juilliard for my doctorate and was accepted and was fortunate to study with David Diamond, primarily there, and Persichetti. And I also was very fond of the style of Elliott Carter and have implemented a lot of those different styles together.
For people who don't know who Elliott Carter is, what kind of...
That's me. I'm like, this is so cool. It's like I'm in a whole new world.
Most of you would not know Elliott Carter, and most living people that aren't composers do not know Elliott Carter. He was well known in Europe and played a lot and respected so long before he was here. The thing about his music is that it is very layered, and the more instruments that are involved, the more difficult it is to listen to.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that have listened only to his orchestral music are very turned off by it.
Interesting.
But I try to have people study a trio that he wrote, and it's much easier to dissect, and you can see what's really going on, and it's a wonderful study. And he has the layers sort of imitate each other gradually, and so they sort of overlap and then go away again. It's fascinating.
I think that's something about composition that is so fascinating, is each composer has a little bit of a different take on things, but they always have their, like when you start to dissect it, like the imitating with the different instruments, or they just have their own certain flair for the things that they do with that. When you start to dig into it, it's so interesting to see.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are timid about listening to it because they say they don't understand it. We don't care. If you enjoy our music, and it doesn't matter how intellectually you're enjoying it, or just sit back, and if you like it, you like it. You don't need to explain why.
Yeah. I am fascinated because I don't hold any book knowledge of music. I sing for fun, right? Unlike you two ladies who know your scales and all the different things that make up music theory, and I don't know. Now I'm just saying words, but
which is your gift?
Which is my gift. Words are my method. But I was sharing with you before we started recording that I was given a tiny glimpse into composing because my husband, who is a musician, he composed the music I walked down the aisle to. And so, which was so beautiful. And I got to see how he started and just kind of found a sound he liked and built around that and tried different things until he found the sound. But you said in your college days you just wrote nonstop. What did that look like? What was the process? I'm fascinated by it.
Each piece comes about in a different way. And at that point, I was being taught different methods, and so I would have a point of departure. But
that
now
helps.
It's interesting because who knows where inspiration comes from?
Yes.
We are so fortunate and so blessed. And I tell you, there are two activities that I can do that will generally bring about ideas. One is a long drive in which the car basically knows the way.
Yes.
And the other one is a long walk without my dog, Alto. I'm sorry, Alto. And the thoughts just come without you trying to.
And that is so interesting because that goes across art forms, because when I do spoken word. That's my method. And when I do my writing workshops with other poets who want to learn, I tell them that same thing. And I say, for me, the best place I write is long drives, but for me as well is the shower. And so I actually, for the longest time, had a dry erase board in my shower so I could write down ideas, because otherwise they'd disappear. Yeah.
I know. I have had that happen too.
Yeah.
And I say that's the time for non-thinking thinking.
Yes.
That's when it happens.
Wow.
So we're fortunate.
I'm a little similar to Claire, the composer, the amazing Juilliard attendee. This is great. I love this podcast, Kelly.
Now, you mentioned scales, etc., right? Okay,
I think,
I
yes.
learned all of those things. But as a composer, these days, there are a lot of different types of things that sort of replace scales that don't have key signatures. And so when I sing, it's like I have to really remember, okay, what are sharps and flats here? Because they're not in front of the notes. Like when I write them, they're in front of the notes. And so, can you picture yourself there?
I don't think so. Now we've gone above my head and I'm just back in awe. This is amazing.
But anyway.
It's amazing to me because composing probably partially, I would think, would be following rules, and on the other side of it, breaking rules.
Break those rules, yes.
So you use the foundation of the rules of theory and that sort of thing, but to really make it interesting, there's probably the breaking of those rules as well.
Correct. And sometimes each piece can sort of make its own rules, or
That's probably a better way to put it, make its own rules.
yeah. But it's just hard to describe.
I'm sure.
But it's I mean, you get initial ideas, and then there's a lot of chug along, that goes along with it, and to the point that, okay, I get my ideas, and I have the notes in my head, and I'll try out some things at the piano, and then I go to the computer and I put them in, and I make so many changes that I will save, after every little idea, basically, I will save my file on the date name, and then I'll put an A, B, C, D, E, F, G beside it, so I can go back
Wow.
if I've really sort of gone crazy with it and retrieve a past
Back to the original.
Yeah.
That's
and
smart.
And I get so lost in my writing that time has no meaning. And that's when my dog Alto comes and barks and says, either I need to go out, I need to eat. So let's do it, Mom.
Thank
It's a
God
good
for our
reminder.
dogs.
Yeah. When you were going through school, you had this teacher composer, and you started to really understand, this is what I want to do. Looking back now over your life, has the dream changed at all, or has it grown or looked different than what you thought?
Well, when you're my age or much younger, if you're still composing, it's a passion. It's not a career. It's not something you can change. Yeah. And you do whatever you need to do to, feed the dog and yourself and stay in a house.
Yes.
So we often see a large slice of life. I always thought to be a composer you had to either be independently wealthy or teach. And I have taught at different levels. Locally here was at Palm Beach Atlantic University. And
I'm an alumni from PBA.
you?
I
Well,
am.
for goodness
Yeah.
sake. There you go. And but I eventually realized that teaching was really not for me, and it was good to get back out into the community.
Yes.
And so that's where I thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us too. Community is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the community, I don't know if you all have ever heard of Zimmerman's Cafe Chamber Music.
I have, and I've been honored to attend. It's wonderful. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes.
Well, yes, Zimmerman's Cafe Chamber Music. got its name from Bach. He and his cohorts would meet at this coffee house. Coffee was great in Bach's day. He even wrote a piece about it.
Oh, yeah.
But they would gather there and play each other's works for each other. And so Greg Stepanich and I, co-founders, co-directors of Zimmerman's Cafe, thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we started a regular series of only contemporary music that was written by South Florida composers?
Wow.
And if we
Love that.
presented it in a non-formal context. And so we got together with the folks at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, who are lovely, and they love the arts. And we started a series there, not in the lovely sanctuary, which has a wonderful acoustic,
Yeah.
but in the parish hall. And we encourage people that come they can come in their shorts, and we have food and drink, including wine. Now, that's
that.
always a big pull. And people can eat and drink while the music is being played, as long as they are
Respectful.
respectful, and they are. And each composer is there. We do occasionally play a piece by a deceased composer. And the composer will get up and introduce his or her work, and then the piece is played by a chamber music group, solo or chamber, and then the floor is open to the composer and the players.
Wow.
For the audience to ask questions.
Oh,
so
that's
they're
cool.
seated at round tables, very informally, and they have no qualms about asking anything. Some people know nothing about music, and some people are very musically educated. And so it's been wonderful. Our first event was in 2016, and we had them regularly twice a year, usually in April and October. Since then, except for when we were ousted by COVID.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. As were a lot of every event. Yeah.
Exactly. And our last event was in October, and we're sort of on hiatus now. Okay. Greg and I both are very, very busy people, and I really need to concentrate on writing music right now, and I'm working on an opera currently.
Wow.
And so it's small scale, but it's, it's still an opera. And so I need more time.
Yeah. But for those listening, we want to tickle their ear with the name Zimmerman's Cafe.
Cafe.
So if they see it come up, they know,
Absolutely.
I need to go to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing that I took away from this, besides I love that whole concept, is did Bach create open mics? Am I following in his footsteps? Because I accept, and also I'm humbled by it.
I don't
How
know.
amazing.
He may have had a megaphone.
Probably looked a little different, but coffee shop and sharing art with your community, pretty spot on. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd have to say that Bach is one of my great influences, too.
Wow.
Because, relatively speaking, my work is contrapuntal. Contrapuntal. Okay, that.
For non-musicians.
Okay, counterpoint
Yes.
is like line against line, as opposed to like a hymn,
Right.
which is chords, chunk, chunk, chunk,
Yeah.
chunk. It's line, imitative line,
Yeah.
imitative line.
Yeah.
So that really appeals to me.
Very cool. So the last Zimmerman's Cafe, I think that y'all had, I was able to go to, and they performed one of your pieces that was like what I would call like mixed media, which is not the correct word, but it was like street sounds and a harp. Like, I don't know, maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Okay, the piece was for harp and fixed media.
Fixed
media, in the past it would have been tape or whatever, but now we can do that on the computer and just have a playback CD popped in. And then the live artist plays in sync with that.
Oh, I love
and
that.
It's notated, and the piece was called Full Moon Circle. And Christina Finch, who's a wonderful harpist.
She was amazing.
Yes, she is. She had commissioned me to write the piece, And she wanted to have sounds that reflected the different neighborhoods around Miami. She and her husband at that point were living in Miami. And so this actually was an abridged version, and it sort of has become the version. It's 13 minutes, and it seems to go by quickly, so I was afraid that 20 minutes might be too long. But it works well, and she does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And the piece is very difficult, and oh boy, writing for the harp is a challenge, but she was great to work with. And we're at this point going through and taking out some of the things that presented difficulties for her, because if they're difficult for her, your even good harpist is going to have difficulty.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It was amazing. I love outside of the box
Yeah.
thinking with those sort of things.
Yeah.
So if you could speak to someone who's young and wants to be a composer and thinks, I can only compose for a passion, or I have to teach, or whatever, what would you say to them?
well, actually, when I was teaching at the university level, I encouraged people to have a second major or another field of study that they were interested in, so that they would have the possibility to have a paying career in addition to their composition. And some composers are very, very clever at getting commissions and at getting consortium commissions. And, people are natured different ways, and some of us that are so composition-oriented just aren't great at selling ourselves.
That's so
and it
true.
takes a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
And I need to get better at it.
That's hard, especially when you care so much about what you're creating, to then put a price tag on it. You just want it to be received, and you want to share it with everybody. Claire, I understand.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would love to know, in this amazing life that you've lived, what are some of your, I guess, proudest moments or most impactful moments that you've had?
Oh, gosh. I guess my proudest moments are each time I have a work premiered or played, for that matter.
Yes.
And I'm in the audience especially. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to share it with people and seeing.
And hear it come to life.
Yes.
Because we're unlike other artists in that people that draw or paint, they can see that canvas. They can lift it up and look at it. We hear it in our heads, but there's nothing like hearing even that first run through that might be really bad. It's like,
Yes.
oh my God, that's my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Wow. Can you think of any specific times where the listener or audience reacted in a way that just made you feel so proud? Any standouts?
Oh, you know what? It's interesting. There was a moment in South Dakota, I think, in which I had, I think it was a woodwind quintet that was played for the first time, and it was commissioned by the group. And the people in the audience were farmers, various people just from the community. They gave me such a warm round of applause, and I thought, oh my God, if I can reach people that obviously are not musicians, and they're just enjoying what they're hearing, that was amazing.
That is really cool.
That was really amazing.
So where you are now, what does, for those listening or watching, what does support look like for you at this time in your life from the community?
That's interesting. Well, I'm serious about this. If you've ever wanted someone to write a piece for any occasion, maybe it's for an anniversary or a surprise or a birthday or whatever, do not be intimidated to reach out to me or any other composer and say, could I commission you to write this? And it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
And you can discuss your price range.
Of course, yeah.
With the composer and
Talk about a meaningful gift.
about it. Yeah. And I have had that happen.
Yeah.
And, it's all too rare, but it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful.
So this it might be a really strange question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The difference between a composer and a songwriter, is it just verbiage? Or do you think some people get intimidated like, oh, she's a composer? Like, that sounds so incredibly, complex and amazing.
Well, I think in my mind, the difference would be that a composer is somebody that has really studied composition and the techniques involved, and a songwriter might be someone who has studied the techniques in just writing songs to be sung and made accompanied by one instrument or whatever. So to me, it's like a different genre.
Yes, and there's all these layers to composition.
It's not to downgrade the person that's a songwriter at all. It's just a different genre.
Yeah. I just want to encourage people, if they ever reach out to Claire, that don't be intimidated by the word composer. It just means it's so much richer and fuller in deep depth.
And we write songs too. I've written song cycles, which are generally songs that are written by sometimes the same poet or different poets that have some sort of theme running through them. And
that's neat.
Yeah.
Cool. That's amazing. Is there anything else, Kel, that you want to ask?
I think that I like what you have said, that encouraging young people to have a secondary, because it doesn't have to be and, it can be both and. You don't have to composer or bust, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You can compose and do other things. It doesn't mean you're not a talented musician. It doesn't mean you're not accomplished. I thought that was really, really great input. So,
where can people find you, Claire?
Oh my goodness.
Is there a website or anyone you want?
Well, there is a website, clareshore.com.
Perfect.
And you know what? You can call me if you want to.
That works.
Yeah. Can I give out my phone number?
If you're okay with it.
And I love texting. You can text me if you want to call. And sometimes I'm not available, and you can text me if I don't answer.
Okay.
561-252-0987.
Start a conversation. Text the composer.
That is great. I love it too.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your story. I am blown away by you.
You're a gem in Lake Worth that many people don't realize.
So are you. And one day I'm going to have a discussion with you two.
Okay.
About your lives.
Oh my goodness. I would love that. That's amazing.
Thank you so much, ladies.
You're
this has
so
been wonderful.
Welcome.
Yes, thank
Kelly,
you.
This was a good conversation.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And to all of you listening, thank you so much for taking some time. We hope you are inspired, that you maybe want to get out there and try to compose a little something, or connect with a composer, inspired to maybe step out of the gift comfort zone and do something a little bit unique, or go to a performance. Look up some local composers. We definitely have a community of them here in South Florida. So thank you for listening. This has been another episode of Conversations with myself, Jeanette Brown, Kelly Olive, and Clare Shore. We are so grateful, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And hey, what are you doing before? Yeah, thank you. Before, what are you doing? Click subscribe. Go listen to all of our past conversations. Share with somebody so that we can continue to have more conversations. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, and join us for the next episode.